Chapter 513, Subduing the Orange Star Emissary. This chapter is updated by novels.pl. Juan Mook Singerling asked, "What exactly do you need my help for?" Zhang Yuochen said, "First, I captured the Orange Star Emissary. Then I killed the Yellow God Emissary. I have caused the Black Market Excellence Hall to be humiliated and have greatly angered them. They will definitely come for revenge." Although the Black Market's power in the East region Saint City is not as powerful as that of the Chen family and the Saint Academy, it has great power in the entirety of the Eastern region. They have gathered together countless evil masters. I am not worried that they will come to fight me, but I am worried they will go to Omen Ridge and hurt my family. Although the Martial Market Bank will definitely protect them, the masters of the black market are sinister and cunning. I am afraid that something will go wrong. Juan Mook Singerling nodded and said, "You want me to send a monk of the demonic sect to Omen Ridge to secretly protect them?" Zhang Yuochen said, "Given the power of the moon worship demonic sect, even if they intercept the people of the black market along the way, it shouldn't be that difficult, right?" Juan Mook Singerling tapped her chin and said, "Since Di has already said that he will cause trouble on the day of your wedding to Sister Chen, he will certainly put a good deal of effort to do this. If a fight really broke out, it might cause a large-scale clash between the demonic sect and the black market. It might even cause a saint-level battle." Zhang Yuochen, "I can only say that as your senior sister apprentice, I will do my best to help you this time, but I am not sure whether or not I can beat Di." Zhang Yuochen smiled and said, "Many thanks, Senior Sister Apprentice Juan Mook." Juan Mook Singerling rolled her eyes and tilted her chin up, showing a clear-cut profile as she said, "Is saying thanks enough? Is the no tangible thank you gift?" Zhang Yuochen thought for a moment and then took out 5 kilograms of black glazed spinal crystal and 5 kilograms of purple cloud patterned eaglewood out of the storage ring and handed them to Juan Mook Singerling, once again saying, "Many thanks, Senior Sister Apprentice." A gleam of disappointment appeared in Juan Mook Singerling's eyes. She put the black glazed spinal crystal and the purple cloud patterned eaglewood away, saying with some resentment, "You're just like a piece of wood, there isn't any difference at all." Juan Mook Singerling then took out a 17-centimeter jade casket out of her storage bracelet and handed it to him. "Of the 5 elements spirit treasure, you're just missing blood scent cultivation soil, right? I know you can't open your mouth to ask me for it, now I am taking the initiative to give it to you. Do you want it?" Juan Mook Singerling's beautiful eyes sparkled and her lashes fluttered as she looked at Zhang Yuochen closely. Her eyes held a look of love. Just then, her words seemed to hold another meaning, as if she wasn't just giving the blood saint cultivating soil to Zhang Yuochen but also giving him something else. Zhang Yuochen accepted the jade casket and held it in the palm of his hands. In a faint voice, he said, "Many thanks." Juan Mook Singerling bit her lip and said, "If you like to thank people, then you can do it for a lifetime." After saying these words, Juan Mook Singerling turned. Her eyes stung and her heart felt like it had been squeezed by a hand. It felt very pained. She understood, she and Zhang Yuochen would never be together. There was an insurmountable gap between them. Juan Mook Singerling took a breath and hid her emotions. The door creaked as she opened it and quickly walked out. Zhang Yuochen put the blood scent cultivation soil away and followed her out. Huang Yanjun was standing in the yard, right below the osmanthus tree. Her hands were behind her back and she was waiting quietly. Her beautiful eyes occasionally darted toward the door of Juan Mook Singerling's room. Although she knew that nothing untoward would ever happen between Zhang Yuochen and Juan Mook Singerling, it was still very difficult to pacify her emotions. The Orange Star Emissary sarcastically said, "Pathetic. Your fiancé and your best friend are in a room together but you can only guard the door outside. Ha ha. If I were you, I wouldn't be this stupid. If you say another word, I will immediately carve 10 sword marks onto your face. Do you believe me?" Huang Yanjun said. The Orange Star Emissary huffed coldly but didn't speak any further. With the sound of the door opening, Juan Mook Singerling and Zhang Yuochen came out one after the other. Huang Yanjun let out a sigh of relief and did her best to appear natural. She immediately went forward and asked, "Have you reached an agreement?" She did not know, and did not want to know, what Zhang Yuochen and Juan Mook Singerling had been talking about. so she could only ask in this way. Juan Mook Singerling nodded and said, "We have come to an agreement. I am going to make a trip back to East Region Saint City right now. Sister Chen, I'll see you when you get married to Zhang Yuochen." Having said this, Juan Mook Singerling did not pause. Leaving immediately, Zhang Yuochen looked toward Blackie. Using sound transmission, he secretly said, "The internal space of the yin-yang wooden graph is already supported by the sacred prime tree. There are some secrets that I want to ask you about." Blackie laughed out loud. "Zhang Yuochen, there are no outsiders present. There is no harm in speaking about the secret of the yin-yang wooden graph. Other than Zhang Yuochen, Blackie, and Huang Yanjun, the Orange Star Emissary and Auxinian were also present. Zhang Yuochen did not want the Orange Star Emissary and Auxinian to know of the secret of the yin-yang wooden graph, but since Blackie had already spoken of it, there was no need to continue keeping it hidden. After all, Blackie was not just a simple cat, rather, he was a medieval monster that had been sealed for 100,000 years. Whether in terms of wisdom or wile, he was not someone the present Zhang Yuochen could match. Since he dared to speak about the secret of the yin-yang wooden graph, then he must be able to ensure that this secret would not be revealed. Huang Yanjun asked curiously, "What yin-yang wooden graph?" Not only was Huang Yanjun curious, the Orange Star Emissary and Auxinian were also very curious. "Since you want to know, then I will tell you." The sacred mark between Zhang Yuochen's brows appeared and formed a strange and complicated mark. Swish! The yin-yang wooden graph flew out of the sacred mark on his glabella and hovered in front of Zhang Yuochen. Blackie stood on a 1,000-ton black stone and said, "The yin-yang wooden graph is a tree leaf from the sacred prime tree that Saint Monk Xumi refined into a picture. At the same time, it is also a space treasure." The yin-yang wooden graph has already acknowledged Zhang Yuochen as its master. He only has to inject his genuine qi into the scroll to be able to open the inner world within the scroll. The flow of time inside the scroll is completely different from that on the outside. If a warrior practiced for 10 days inside the scroll world, only a day would have passed on the outside. In other words, if one used the yin-yang wooden graph, it would increase the warrior's rate of practice tenfold. But in reality, it is nowhere near as simple as just tenfold. In the scroll world, there is a sacred prime tree. It is also known as the heaven and earth root. With its help, the scroll world has become a holy land for practice. Hearing Blackie's words, Huang Yanjun, Auxinian, and the Orange Star Emissary were all shocked. "Impossible, impossible." The Orange Star Emissary immediately shook her head and said, "During the Middle Ancient times, the sacred prime tree was chopped down by a terrible man. How could it still exist in the world? Besides, how could a mere painting be able to fit the legendary sacred prime tree?" The sacred prime tree was named thus because its power was comparable to that of a god. In fact, in the eyes of the later generations, the sacred prime tree was the last of the gods of Kunlun's field. How could a mere painting hold a god? Even Huang Yanchen and Auxinian didn't believe it, much less the Orange Star Emissary. Their gaze turned toward Zhang Yuochen. Blackie liked to tell tall tales. He was not believable, but Zhang Yuochen's words were trustworthy. Zhang Yuochen glanced at them. He didn't want to explain further. "Since everyone already knows of the secret of the wooden graph, then let's enter the internal world of the scroll together." Zhang Yuochen placed one palm against the surface of the wooden graph and injected his genuine qi into it. Swish! A moment later, a streak of light shot out from the scroll and formed a space door. They all walked through together and entered the internal world of the wooden graph. The spatial ring that Zhang Yuochen had created was already very magical, but compared to the yin-yang wooden graph, it was not even worth mentioning. This was a true space treasure. With Zhang Yuochen in the lead, they came to the stump of the sacred prime tree. Seeing it from afar, it looked nothing like a tree trunk. It looked exactly like an endless plain. One could imagine just how big the tree was when it was still alive. A great surge of spiritual qi and holy qi came from the tree stump, dissipating outward like layers of waves striking against their hearts. This is the sacred prime tree?" The Orange Star Emissary's eyes were wide open. Her entire person had been frozen by the awe emanating from the sacred prime tree. Compared to the sacred prime tree, She was like an ant. Blackie leapt up like a streak of shadow before landing on the stump of the sacred prime tree. With pride in his age and experience, he said, "How is it? By practicing here, you can absorb the holy chi emanating from the sacred prime tree and, with my pointers, I trust that the practice of your physical quality will succeed before too long." Of course, Blackie was referring to the Orange Star Emissary and Auxinian. The Orange Star Emissary was very moved. She secretly thought to herself that if the time inside the wooden graph was truly 10 times that of the outside, with the additional help of the sacred prime tree, she would be able to break into the fish dragon realm within 2 months. Within 3 years, she would be able to shoot into the half-saint realm. Of course, 3 years in the external world would be 30 years inside the scroll world. She could focus on practicing in the scroll world and seclude herself for refinement, while Zhang Yuochen would be entangled by everyday affairs and would not have much time to practice in the scroll world. Thus, her practice speed would certainly surpass his. If she could reach the half-saint realm, would she have to worry about dealing with the cat and Zhang Yuochen? By then, she would be able to kill Blackie and Zhang Yuochen and steal the treasure that was the yin-yang wooden graph. In the future, she would certainly become the most powerful in Kunlun's field. In this case, I will endure it for now. I'll let Zhang Yuochen think that he has already subdued me. Once my practice has succeeded, then I will viciously crush him beneath my feet. The Orange Star Emissary thought in her heart. Up till now, she had always thought that Blackie was just a war pet that Zhang Yuochen kept, and had not given him much thought. However, she did not know that Blackie's power was sealed in the scroll world inside the yin-yang wooden graph. Even if a saint charged into the scroll world, Blackie would be able to kill him. Of course, no matter how strong Blackie was, Zhang Yuochen was able to use the power of the yin-yang wooden graph to suppress him. It could be said that it was one item subduing another. Zhang Yuochen glanced toward the Orange Star Emissary and said, "The secret of the yin-yang wooden graph cannot be revealed. Since I have brought you in, I will not let you out so easily. If you still do not obey me, then I will have to kill you now." Zhang Yuochen's intention to kill the Orange Star Emissary had never changed. The Orange Star Emissary pretended to be very terrified and quickly went down on one knee. "Respectfully," she said, "the practice environment inside the yin-yang wooden graph is 10 times better than that of the Black Market Excellence Hall. With the help of such a treasure, you will surely become the master of Kunlun's field. I am not an unreasonable woman. From this day on, I am willing to serve at your side, either as a servant or a slave. I will never waver in my loyalty." Zhang Yuochen stared deeply at the Orange Star Emissary. He couldn't be bothered to figure out whether she was being truthful or telling a lie. In any case, as long as she was willing to bend her head in submission, he could let her lie for now. It was fine for her to practice in the scroll world. She might be of great use in the future.